Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Junkies. I'm Nick Zigic, bringing you awesome, super awesome information on real estate issues. Today we're talking about something that you, or almost you, might have been at some point of time, or are going to be at some point of time, and that is being a buyer of a real estate property. So, what do you need to do to buy a property successfully? How to prepare, not the transaction, but how to get in that swing of the mood. And to help us understand that process better and to help you be a better buyer, today with me in the studio, my friend, Mike Vachani. Mikey, how are you doing?
Very good, very good. And I gotta say, I am a real estate junkie. I've always been a real estate junkie. So please, ask away.
All right. So we love our job, obviously, but the fact is that there is no better satisfaction than having a client get to understand the process well,
and it's a process.
and then work that process together. So we got a person that is either living in a home that they already own, or they are renting and they are deciding to make that step in owning property. So where should their level of confidence be? Where should they be in their lives? How should they prepare themselves for that big thing? And obviously there's two tracks here. What would you think?
You know, I think the first thing to understand is the buyer of a property is a very emotional process.
Oh, yes.
It's the biggest purchase they ever had in their life. There's nothing that compares to it. And the second thing is are they a first-time buyer, or are they a third or fourth, or what they call a move-up buyer?
Right.
Big difference in the emotions. Let's focus on the first-time buyer. I think this probably affects most of for people who have never bought before.
Right.
A first-time buyer, they think they know everything about what they want in a house. They come in, I want a 4-bedroom house, I want 2,000 square feet, I want in this city, but they're lost. The first thing you have to think about is sitting down with a client and saying, okay, tell me what your dreams are. They explain what the dreams are. Tell me what you're qualified for. And most of the time they say, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So first steps is...
I was just about to turn your back.
First thing is, get them into your office, sit down, and let them talk.
Yeah.
If you're the buyer, talk. Tell me what you want. Tell me what you feel comfortable with on a monthly payment, what you can afford. And then I'll talk to you about the next steps, financing. So what do you want? Tell me what you're comfortable with. And then I will talk to you about getting qualified for a loan.
Yep.
And then what you could really get once you're qualified.
Right.
Because when you initially start, you have a big view of, oh, I want to be in Monrovia, Duarte, Pasadena. I would love to be in these cities. But they say, but I can afford $1,200 a month. What does that really mean? The other thing is types of properties they want. Do they want a house? Do they want a condo? Why are they buying a house?
Right.
Do they got a bigger family, a smaller family, kids in the future? How important is the yard, the schools? Where's their job at? These are a bunch of questions that I'll ask them.
Yes.
Verbally. You could put in a questionnaire, but you can ask them verbally.
But it's in my opinion, it's really critical to get this conversation going on the most friendly, most open way, because a lot of people, you know, we talked in one of the previous episodes about a personality and clicking.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't create a relationship with your agent, you're not going to disclose what you need and want. You might kind of be off, and the agent will be off with you because they don't have a crystal ball.
Yep.
So getting to understand all those must-haves versus all those wishful things that you would have in a house. Well, I would love to live in Monrovia, but can I afford it? And what the adjustments are is key when talking in that interview process.
And the other thing, too, is on the seller side, yes, you have a strong relationship. And I said before, they're going to become your best friend. On the buyer side, it's even a strong relationship. You're spending a lot more time with the buyer than with the seller, because not only are you getting them prepared for the biggest purchase of their life because they're spending money,
Yep.
Not only are you going through these questions with them, not only are you dealing with all their family issues, you're going to spend a lot of time in the car with them seeing homes.
Yeah.
You're going to spend 3 or 4 or 5 times the amount of time what you do with the buyer than the seller. So you better like that agent. You better know what they want, and that agent better have the experience to be able to get to you what you want and the knowledge. We start with the wish list, the criteria, and we go out for tours of the property.
Okay.
We will not go out for a tour until we've done all that and we've done the qualifications. And to step back into the qualifications is that is going to a lender and actually seeing what they can afford to buy based upon their credit report, based upon their income and their debt
Yep.
and what they're comfortable with. So I will get them pre-qualified. I will give them options of lenders if they don't already have someone they work with to get pre-qualified. Pre-qualified, and there's two types of
That's what question.
Did
and
you want me to go into that?
No, you're reading my mind. I was just about to say, like, okay, explain the difference between.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, first of all, what that means is there's two different levels. One is the lender's going to say, okay, tell me what you want and what your income is. Tell me everything verbally, and I'll give you a pre-qualification letter based upon everything you said verbally. And the letter will say is, you know, Nick, you're qualified for not the type of house, but the value of the house.
Right.
You're qualified for a house at $500,000 at 4.5% with 20% down. And when I mean down, that means how much cash you have to put towards the value of the house
Right.
before closing costs. The second thing is a pre-approval, and that's what you really need. The pre-approval is when they actually review your qualifications. You do a full application, and that's another whole story. It's a big 3 or 4 to 8 page form of everything about your finances, a financial statement, your actual pay stubs, your tax returns.
Right.
I mean, you go into details, and they actually check all that and verify that's all true, and then give you a kind of a stronger approval letter. When you make offers on a property, and we'll talk later on about that, that is important. You need the pre-approval letter, you need the bank statements, and there's a lot more in that.
Yep.
I don't think you want to go into all that today.
No, but generally the thing that most of the buyers that I run into is, oh, you know, we got pre-qualified. Well, you know, I need you pre-approved. You know, what's the difference?
They call their banker up and they give them a letter. It means
Right,
nothing.
and that letter, then I have to call the banker because they think they got everything they need. Then the banker calls them because they
Right.
trust the banker on the financial side and so on. So we get that going in that direction. But the key is that after that, you got a check in your pocket and you can go shopping,
Yeah.
pretty much.
And going shopping is that's the next whole thing.
All right.
When we actually go out to see properties, you know, every realtor does things differently, but I believe that we need feedback. So based upon their wish list, based upon their financing and their criteria, and all the stuff going on in their life, kids, schools, I'm going to narrow down an area for them that we've all agreed upon. And I'm going to go out the first time and take them on a longer tour.
Okay.
Some people will take you to see the exact properties you want to see. I don't believe that. I think you need to see the market.
Right.
I'll take them out. I'll need 3 to 4 hours the first day. And we'll go see 10 to 15 properties, just for the purpose of them seeing properties and adjusting their mindset. Because a first-time buyer's mindset is completely off than someone who's bought properties in the past. I don't expect to find a property the first time. It's just to narrow them down, their mindset.
To get to understand
To
what
teach
is
them.
out there, exactly.
They're relying on the realtor for everything. And that's important. The realtor has the experience, but you need to trust them. And the buyer needs to pick the right person so that person can guide them in the right direction. Even if you know, and I think you know, because you go online. The buyers all go online and think they know the market.
Yep.
And that's another whole side of things is looking at properties. But they go online, they
I
know
find
the
that
market.
a lot confusing for them, but you know, they kind of.
Well, knowing that they'll go on to a lot of these major websites that are just posting information, but they don't say anything more than just posting information. And a buyer will go on there and think, oh, I can get a house for $400,000. Well, is it a short sale? Is that a real price? Is that an old listing?
Old listing?
What's the
Very
detail?
often,
Or is it
yeah.
cash only because there's houses to be torn down and rebuilt? Before you make offers, before you actually go look at properties, get your own realtor. And not the realtor that's shown up on those public websites. That's not the realtor that's representing that house or representing you.
Watch the episode on choosing your agent.
So, yeah, you know, there's just so much involved in that. And I think the most important thing going back is, for a buyer, is to select that agent, go through their criteria, the wish list, understand everything about the family's needs and desires, get the qualifications and financing in place, and trust the realtor to take all that, package it, and find you the properties, because that's the first step.
How do you narrow down? How do you make a decision?
You know what? Once the buyer goes out there and looks at a lot of properties, you will know right away what their mindset is.
Okay.
Initially, it's, oh, this house needs too much work.
Right.
Oh, this is red, this is green, this is yellow. After going on for a while, you get to understand what their needs are, and the buyer understands that, hey, I'm going to have to make some choices and decisions
Yes.
in picking my property. And I may have this wish list and this criteria, but I also have this price what I can afford. And you're going to have to adjust your criteria and wish list to fit that price. If you have unlimited budget, Even
More
then,
power to you.
And even then, you might not need to,
Right.
because guess what? It's very hard to find that perfect house.
Yeah.
It may not be. It may be adjustable to fit what you need by just talking about some of the basics, like, hey, it has a red wall. I can't stand red. Well, guess what? I got a handyman for you. And for $50, $100, $200, $500, that's problem's fixed.
Yeah.
There's ways to solve problems. And that's the hard part for a buyer. The first time out, they may not see that. Second time out, they start to see it. Third time out, they're starting to understand the market.
Yep.
And later on, we'll talk about making offers. And sometimes it takes a while for your offer to stick. And so it's not always the first house you want. It's also the house that fits your criteria and is available to what you can afford.
Yeah. So right between that point where they're seeing and getting closer to understanding that what the house that they want, and actually at that moment when they're going to make a decision to make an offer on one, and that point of actually opening escrow, that is where the fine line of what their needs are and what their wishful thinking is,
Right.
and that really determines when the offer is going to be made.
Yes.
Because when they understand at that moment that the house has everything that they need, that there are certain things that can be easily adjusted to fit their needs,
Right.
and when they can determine that everything that is in access can be changed or just could fit in,
Right.
that is the time when they can understand that that house can fit them.
And you know what? You'll be surprised. It's a scary process, but the buyer will know that house fits for them.
Right.
Even though it doesn't fit the perfect criteria, they start understanding. Either the husband, the wife, the kid, whoever's involved in the transaction will find something they like about the house. A lot of times, I have stories and stories of times where they've completely bought a house that's not even close to what they wanted. But when I interviewed
They saw it.
I saw some things they were saying that they had no idea they wanted. So I wanted to show them some other opportunities.
Yes.
They were totally against seeing it. They walked in that house and they said, this is it. It didn't have the yard, it didn't have the size, it didn't have the criteria. In fact, every criteria was different, but they loved the house. And we got it done.
I like that. I had a client that was looking for all these things in a house, and they bought it because of the yard.
Yep.
The house was total mismatch.
The house was not what they wanted, but it was walking distance to their favorite brewery. Or
Yep.
beer
But
store.
when they see it, they know it's there. So it's open book.
It is.
Thank you, man.
No problem. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I hope that if you're a buyer, or if you're going to ever be a buyer, that this was educational and that it helped you figure out the process. So when you are in that prep mode, that you get all the things right. And don't forget, you really don't know what you like until you see it. Until next time, for Real Estate Junkies, this is Nick Zigic.